Guidance Rubrics is a comprehensive system for automatically grading and giving feedback for Canvas quizzes. However, before you start automating your grading, you should take a test drive to learn some of the basics of the system. Once you completed this test drive, you might want to use the system to assist you in grading. There's a video that discusses this. However, this video focuses on how to get started with Guidance Rubrics and take it for a test drive. Note that this system is tightly integrated with Canvas, so you'll need instructor access to use Guidance Rubrics. This video will go through several steps. First, we will make a test quiz in Canvas. Then, we'll log into Guidance Rubrics and configure the system to work with your Canvas account. Next, we'll configure Guidance Rubrics to automatically grade the quiz we made in Canvas. Then, we'll create some test submissions. These test submissions can be ones that you create or from past students' submissions. Next, we test some rubric elements to understand how AI grades assignments. Once we understand how rubric elements perform, we can use the rubric editor to build a rubric. And finally, this rubric is used to evaluate test submissions, and we can use Guidance Rubrics to explore the performance of our rubric. Our first step is to build a quiz in Canvas. Here's a Canvas course from last fall. I will add a quiz to it, a classic quiz. I'll call the quiz test and add a question. I can use a question from a previous semester, so I could use a student's submissions to that question. And the quiz type has to be an essay. Guidance Rubrics is only for essay questions. Now, we update the question and save. We don't need to publish. We can just save. Next, we'll log into Guidance Rubrics and configure Guidance Rubrics so it can pull questions from Canvas. When you go to Guidance Rubrics, it should look something like this, with a page of help topics. Here, there's settings and sign in. If you can't see these, you might need to zoom out, which means pressing Ctrl and minus at the same time. I'm going to start by signing in. Anybody can sign in, you don't need to have a prior account or pay anything, but we only support signing in with Google. I'm going to sign in with my school account. You can sign in with any Gmail account. Once we're signed in, we end up at the settings page. This message pops up. It says that our Canvas token ID is not set, which is correct. We have not set it. That's what we'll do next. To get a Canvas token, we go back into Canvas and click on Account. Settings. Scroll down to. Just below Approved Integrations should be New Access Token. Any name is fine there. An expiration date can be whatever you want. I'm gonna choose tomorrow. That way there's no risk of exposing the credentials I'm about to generate. Here are the Canvas credentials. Copy that and go back to Guidance Rubrics, and in the section Canvas Access Token, paste that string there. I'm gonna save that. Return back to Canvas and get this name of this machine up here. So, in my case, it's udel. .infrastructure.com. Go back into Guidance Rubrics. Paste that here and save. Now, I'm gonna validate the Canvas Access token. The first time you do this, it can take a considerable period of time, because it's going to load information about all of your courses. Okay. That took about 1 or 2 minutes. And it comes back saying that our API key is valid. Now we can refresh all of the courses. And again, it will go to your Canvas account and get information about the courses. Again, it says that our Canvas token is valid, but it instructs us to select a course. We'll select the course where we made the quiz. It now points out that we have not configured our OpenAI API key, but that's okay. We'll use the default key. The default key will allow you to run a fairly large number of queries. If you're going to use this for a large class, then you would need to get your own API key. Okay. Now we are all configured. Next, we'll enable Guidance Rubrics to grade the question that we just made. For that, we go back to Guidance Rubrics and open on the Manage Questions section. I'll right-click on it. Open it in a new tab. Here it shows the course that we selected. And here's our drop-down list of the quizzes. Here's the quiz we just made. It's saying that it's currently not auto-graded. Here's the sole question in that quiz and we'll mark it for auto-grading. Now we will create some submissions in Guidance Rubrics. We click on Create Submissions. And here's the quiz that we made. And now select the question. You can click here to look at the question text and see that there's 2 ways to upload submissions. So, this question is from Computer Networks. Let's try making a submission using ChatGPT. So here's the question text. It's just copied from here. And then the prompt says, answer the question above. We can generate that. And this is a fine answer, saying that the software would need to be changed in the receiver and sender machines. That's the core of this answer. So we'll upload this, so we can use that submission for testing the rubrics. Now let's use ChatGPT to generate an incorrect answer. We'll say provide incorrect answer to the above question. Generate that. And this indeed is an incorrect answer. It's saying that this code only needs to be changed in the receiving machine. The code needs to be changed in the sender and the receiver. We'll upload that. Now we'll manually paste in a submission. This could be a submission that we develop by ourselves, or maybe a submission from a student from a previous semester. In this case, I put in a slightly tricky answer. It has the correct answer, that the code needs to be changed in the sender and receiver, but it also says that the code needs to be changed in other systems, which is incorrect. We'll upload this submission. Scrolling down, we can see these are the 3 submissions that we have uploaded. Now, we'll create some testing rubric elements, just to get a feel for how the AI might grade this question. Going back to Guidance Rubrics. Now we click on Student Submission. And here we click on Test Manually Created Submissions to test the submissions we just created. and then select the quiz and question you're interested in. It says that there's 3 submissions have been created, and here they are. And here's space to enter the rubric element. This is a query rubric element. There's many other rubric element types. Query is fairly versatile. It starts with an initial prompt that says, "Does the statement below mention that?" Well, this is obviously inappropriate. I will change it to, "Does the statement below mention that the software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver?" Now, frequently the AI is going to come back with a yes or no and maybe some explanation. But sometimes it's not clear if it means yes or no. So, in that case, we need to issue a follow-up prompt asking it to answer either yes or no. So we need it to answer yes, the statement does mention that the software needs to be changed in the sender and the receiver, or no, it does not mention. So now we can test this. We'll test it on this submission by clicking Test. Here it says that the grade was 1. And here's a detailed look at what was sent to the AI and what the AI that returned. We can try this through the other submissions. Click Test. Again, gave it a grade of 1. And here's the details from the conversation with AI. And try it on our third submission. This time the grade is 0. That's what we wanted for this submission. It just said the code only needs to be changed in the receiving machine. It needs to be changed in the sender and receiver. And indeed, the AI has detected this. So this rubric element seems form okay, except for this submission, where the submission correctly identifies that the software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver, but incorrectly identifies that the software needs to be changed in the other locations. This prompt here is just asking if the statement mentions sender and receiver. And it doesn't detect the incorrect answer. So, to do that, we need to think about prompts. What we have so far is we're asking the AI if the statement mentions that the software needs to be changed in the sender and receiver. So we need to extend it. We need to form a Boolean and, so that the submission gets full credit if both of these are satisfied. First, that the statement mentions the software needs to be changed as sender-receiver, and that the statement doesn't mention that the software needs to be changed in other locations. That's not a great idea because we don't really need the submission to explicitly say that the software doesn't need to be changed in other locations. So maybe a better prompt is to ask if the statement does not mention that needs to be changed in other locations. That too is a bit of an awkward request. So, instead we say, does the statement mention the software needs to be changed in other locations? And to get credit, we expect the answer to this question to be no. Let's go back to the playground here and try a prompt that will detect if the statement is mentioning other locations. So now our initial prompt says the statement below might mention that the software needs to be changed in the sender and received. But does the statement also mention it needs to be changed in other locations? And for the follow-up prompt, we'll just take part of this. Yes, a statement does mention that the software needs to be changed in other location. Or no. Does not mention Let's test it. So, here the AI says that the submission does say that, and that's correct, and therefore, this answer should not get full credit. Checking this on the other submissions. The answer: no. And in the final submission, also the answer is no. Now we take a look at building rubrics. So at this point, we have an understanding of how the rubric elements work, and we need to put this together into a whole rubric. So we'll click on the rubric editor. Select the quiz and question. And we begin with the rubric, which is empty. We need to add a component. Details of rubrics and components and more rubric elements are discussed in other videos. Expand. Now, as we've mentioned, we want this to be a Boolean AND. But here it starts with an OR. So that's not quite what we want. But we can get around that by adding an AND. And then deleting this. And then we'll add another element. So we have two elements, two rubric elements, and we have a Boolean AND. So it's only correct if both of these are correct. And the OR here, well, it's only one element. So the OR is not doing anything. I'll change this to a query and paste in this prompt that we had already tested. And then the follow-up prompts. Now for this other one, again it's gonna be a query. Let's go back to the prompt that we have here. And the follow-up prompt. Although those have not been used so far. But here for this rubric element, credit is only given if the answer to this is no. So, we click here and we say the rubric element must not be satisfied. You can put in some descriptions here. And a hint. Well, maybe in this case, the hint will just be maybe. Please see Chapter 1 for details. Okay, so we've built our rubric. And we can save this component. And we can save this rubric. And deploy this rubric. Now we can check the results. However, we need to tell Guidance Rubric servers that some new data needs to be computed. We only need to do that because we're in a bit of a hurry. To do this, we click on the settings and scroll down to the status part and click refresh. That will alert the servers that something new is ready to be computed, even though the servers are not detecting anything yet. Then we can return to student submissions. This time leaving it clicked on View All Submissions. Just select the quiz we made and the question. And once the computing is complete, these fields will be populated. Here is a version of the rubric. And we can click and we can see the submissions by it. These are the manual submissions that we created. Here are the submissions. Right here. And scrolling down, we can see the executed rubric. This is the rubric that we made. And so for this one, this is the incorrect answer, where it says the code only needs to be changed in the receiving machine. The rubric has an end, and in the first part it received 0. So there's no need to grade the second part because the end requires both of them to be a grade of 1. So a grade of 0 means that it's incorrect. Here's the comment to the student. Notice this comment is the same as the hint. Going back to our rubric editor, we see that this hint here is the same as the comment. Here, looking at the other submissions, this is a submission that is correct. And full credit has been received here with both of these. And we can drill down and see exactly what was sent to the AI and what the AI sent back. And here's a comment here. This is correct, and it says you addressed correctly. This also is from our rubric. This is from the component in the description. In the case that you have several components, this will be helpful for students. They'll know which sections they got right, or which components they got right, and there would be a hint for the components that they got wrong. Of course, we can make more detailed hints or what we call common errors, and there's another video on that. And checking the final submission. This is a submission, which was a little bit tricky, because it had part of the right answer, but it had the wrong answer as well. And here indeed, the student got 0. Drilling down, we see that the first part was right. They, indeed, mentioned the code needs to be changed in the sender and receiver. And they also mentioned that the code needs to be changed in other places, which should be false. It should return a no. So that's a quick test drive of guiding this rubrics. There's several other videos and there's lots to learn. Maybe the next video to try is using AI to assist your grading.